How's it going, everyone? Caden at North 40 Fly Shop in Lewiston, Idaho, and today we're going to be tying the October Caddis. So starting out, we got a dry fly hook, size 8. The model is going to be U001. It's an Umpqua hook, and it's just going to be 1 times as long, regular dry fly hook. And then for our thread, we're just going to be using Ultra Thread 140, and it's going to be in burnt orange. So on the hook here, we're going to start about 1/3 going in, and what this is allowing us to do is just making sure that we know where the head's going to start, you know, where we're going to wrap our hackle at, and that'll just make everything a little bit easier. We'll just start out right about there is going to be good, and just nice tight wraps all the way back to the bend of the hook. We want to make sure we cover that shank up all the way. And when we cover the shank up and stuff like that, what that allows to do is just make sure that the dubbing won't spin out, the elk hair will just sit on there real nicely and stuff like that, and just make sure that it looks nice. Another thing I like to do is when I'm wrapping my thread in there, I like to get some like ridges on it, just makes it a little bit more bumpy and stuff like that. Then we're going to take Senyo's Fusion Dub in Flame Orange. We'll just pull out a small bit of it. Start wrapping that in there. And we want to make sure that the dubbing has really tight down to the thread. When you have tight dubbing and it's on the hook really tight, it makes sure that the water won't seep in there as quick. It'll make it float a lot nicer as well. You don't have to gink it as much, or always have to keep on using your shaker or blow it out. Just adding a little bit more dubbing, you know, a little bit at a time, making sure you like it. On these October Caddis, they have these ridges like most flies do, where the thorax of the fly will bend and stuff like that. So if you have any type of flash or something and you want to add that in, give it a little bit more flavor and stuff like that, you can do that as well. It's up to you. This is really simple, easy fly to tie. Super quick, will fill up your fly box pretty nice and quick. Great fly to use in the later months, you know, going in the later parts of summer, going into fall. Then we're going to take natural elk hair here. I like elk hair better than deer hair. And then when we're picking out our elk hair, we want this nice thick elk hair. When it has nice puffy, you know, you can see that there's more air in it as well. You'll see that there's more like bends in it, and that just allows it to float better. It's not as coarse and thin, and you don't want it too flimsy. When you have flimsy elk hair, it'll kind of break a lot easier and stuff, but you still want to be able to wrap it down nice and tight. And we're going to take out just a nice clump here. Trim that off at the base. Then we're going to clear out all this like dubbing material and then any other loose elk hair fibers in the bottom. It'll just make it easier when we're putting it on. Put the tips in on our stacker and make sure that our tips are all lined up. Make the fly look really nice. Then what I like to do is I like to measure out my hairs here. I like them to sit just behind it a ways. On these caddises, you know, their wings sit back farther than the butt of them, so that looks really good right there. And we'll come in here and we'll make a little trim. Makes it easier, not as messy when we're gonna come back. So right about there. Nice 2 loose wraps and then pull straight down. If you pull to the side or something, it really wants to make that elk hair twist to the side and stuff. So when we pull down, it really, you can see that it stacks a lot nicer and real even. Then we can come in here, trim all of the excess of hairs up. A couple more tight wraps to really secure that elk hair down. Then what we're going to do again is we're going to grab more of our dubbing, making consistent dubbing wraps. And what I like to do with these elk hair October Caddis is when you put in 2 or 3 of the elk hair, kind of breaks up the sections of the body. Just allows it to look nice. Like I was saying, with if you go and look at one of these October Caddis, they have these sections on them, and so with the elk hair in between there, you can just make those body sections. We're gonna grab another clump of hair here, trim it off at the base. And then make sure we're stacking our hair again. This is a great fly to use. You can fish it anywhere. With all this elk hair and stuff like that, floats really nice. You can put it in riffles that are pretty severe, as far as roughness in the water. What we're gonna do next with our next clump of elk hair is we're gonna lay it just a little bit shy of the one. Some people like to lay them even. I like to put them just a bit above it. That allows it to really, when they lay, I think it looks better as far as the wing. Two loose wraps, pull down. A couple nice tight ones. Come in there and trim them again. Secure that elk hair butt ends down. Go through and pluck any of the hairs that aren't laying right. You can see there when I push it down, they kind of lay in this way that the wings look. If you look at one, we're going to grab some more dubbing here. Put that on thread. For some people, they like to wet their dubbing down. It'll stick to the thread a lot better. Take one more generous clump of elk hair here. We'll put that in, and then we'll get to our hackle and our moose hair. This fly is really good just because it's really simple, there's not a lot of materials to it. Effective fly, I've fished it a lot. There's a couple good rivers in Oregon that I'm pretty close to, and it's one of my favorite flies to use in the later months. Trim those butts off again. Lay that in there. 2 loose wraps to pull down. It's another thing, you don't want to crowd the hook on any of your flies. We're gonna lay some moose hair in here, so it's good to keep this nice and trimmed down. We're gonna take some wraps over that, really flatten that out. Looks pretty good there. Alright, now we're going to take our moose body hair. These we're going to use for the antenna. These October Caddis have these 2 antennas that will split. And so it's good to find some really thick and black body moose hair here. They don't break as easy. And then if your fly sits in the water, you'll be able to see them. Just pluck these off. Anything from 1 inch and below, you know, less than 1 inch will be good for the antennas. Make sure they're even. And we're gonna put those right in there. Couple wraps, tighten those down, and then you can see there that they split, you know, and they look good. They look like antennas. Come back and trim out our tail ends of the moose. Trim out that. Okay. All right. Next, we're gonna take in some brown Hackle. This is hook size like 16. They recommend for this. But if you look at one of these October Caddis, like I said, they have these like hairs on them up at the front of their head and stuff like that. And this imitates that pretty well. It also gives it really good floating ability. So I'm not gonna pull off the ends of the fibers at the very end. I'm gonna just pull some out. What that allows is when I make some wraps over it, it'll stick in there better, the thread will. So nice couple tight wraps over that. Then we're gonna take more of our dubbing. Don't overdo it with the dubbing here. Just a little bit does the job. Wrap up forward right there. Pull off any of the excess of dubbing. Then we're going to wrap this hackle around. Just making even spiral wraps. That looks good there. Come behind the hackle, wrap it once, and then I'm going to pull up these moose hairs, and then one in front. Then I'm going to come in with my whip finish. And I'm going to just do one wrap. And what that does is it secures the head down. So now I can go hands free there. Come in and trim my hackle there. Make sure my moose hairs are still split. And then we'll come in with 3 wraps like that. Off, there it is. Trim it. And then come in, I use this the most. It's like nail polish. Works the best for me. It's called Hard as Whole head cement. And wipe the excess off. And then come in there and just don't be afraid to get it right in the eye of the hook. You can come through and clean that up, but make sure it's nice and secure. You can see it there. There's our October Caddis. Come in and pluck some of the elk hairs that are not laying what you want them to lay like. There it is.